Bueno, buenas tardes. Yo soy Claudia Valdivieso de la Dirección Académica de Relaciones Institucionales y el día de hoy tenemos esta charla, la cual la dará Brenda Ramírez, Assistant Director de Knight-Hennessy Scholars de Stanford University. Eh, Han aplicado ya estudiantes de la universidad en el pasado y hemos tenido 2 ganadores, por lo cual es una gran oportunidad para ustedes de postular. El programa Knight-Hennessy es una beca de posgrado que busca prepararlos para que sean la próxima generación de líderes y que puedan abordar grandes desafíos complejos que, digamos, enfrenta el mundo. Este programa más o menos anualmente selecciona 100 estudiantes destacados, entonces, ¿por qué no? Pueden ser de repente ustedes. Así que vamos a dar la charla y luego vamos a dar un espacio para que puedan hacer sus preguntas. Ya, sin más preámbulo, dejo a Brenda Ramírez para que pueda dar la charla.
¿Cómo están? Directora de admisiones con Stanford University, parte de Knight-Hennessy Scholars. Mi presentación hoy, me van a tener que disculpar si va a ser en inglés, porque es como me puedo presentar un poquito mejor. El español sí lo entiendo y lo hablo también, entonces si ustedes tienen preguntas, igual me las pueden hacer en español. Y si tienen algunas preguntas sobre la información que estoy dando hoy, también igual me dejan saber si necesitan cualquier aclaramiento de la información. Bueno, para empezar, si quiero conocerlos a ustedes poquito más. Si me pueden dar una mano para los que nunca han escuchado sobre el programa Knight-Hennessy Scholars. Esta es tu primera vez. Ok, genial, están en el lugar correcto. ¿Qué tal a los que ya a lo mejor han escuchado el nombre o tienen alguna familiaridad? Ok, excelente. Bueno, en Stanford tenemos 7 escuelas de posgrado. Voy a nombrar las 7 y si una de ellas tiene el programa que tú estás pensando ingresar, por favor también si pueden demostrar la mano. Empezando con nuestra escuela de business o escuela de negocios de empresa. ¿Algún interés? Excelente. La escuela de educación. Ok, bienvenidas, gracias. Escuela de ingeniería. Gracias. La escuela de leyes. Perfecto. Humanidades y ciencias. Ok. ¿Y qué tal para escuela de medicina? Ok. Y la última sería la escuela de sostenibilidad. Ok. Nunca hay muchos tantos en educación y sostenibilidad, entonces me agrada que veo 2 para educación. ¿Qué tal para tipo de posgrado? Hay diferentes diplomas que otorgamos. ¿Cuáles de ustedes están pensando de una maestría o un master's? Ok. ¿Qué tal para un doctorado o un PhD, lo que llamamos? Ok. Excelente. Bueno, muchas gracias por compartir. Ya con eso podemos empezar. Voy a tratar de dirigir la información que voy a share with you basado en esos intereses que han compartido conmigo. Well, to get us started, I do want to give you an overview of what I'm going to be sharing with you today, knowing that some of you, this is the very first time you're hearing about Knight-Hennessy. I'm going to provide some background information about who we are, how we came to exist at Stanford University, and then we'll move into what we actually do as a program. So, yes, we are a scholarship. We will fund your graduate degree, but we are much more than a funding source. We are able to provide you with really vital leadership development to help create the next generation of global leaders. And then at the end, we will talk about the application process. Are any of you thinking about applying this cycle? Okay, some of you, great. So we will talk about what you need to be thinking about when you're preparing your application, and then also really important timelines and deadlines to keep in mind, whether you're applying this year or for future cycles. At the end, I do like to leave about 15 to 20 minutes for questions. I can be a little bit long-winded, so I'm going to try to keep a track of time to ensure that we have time at the end to address anything that you may want to ask. With that, I do want to get us started into providing some history about the program. So we were founded in the year 2016. We're a pretty new fellowship, just about under 10 years in existence. And John Hennessy, he was Stanford's 10th university president. At that time, John Hennessy was really disappointed with the state of the world as a result of what he considered poor leadership. There had been a lot of corporate scandals from CEOs that were making unethical decisions. There was a lot of corruption in Middle Eastern governments where people were overthrowing their leadership. And so he felt that there was a really important need to create a leadership development program to help create more ethical, empathetic, and decisive leaders for the future. He took this idea to the university leadership, and of course, realizing that graduate studies is a financial burden, it is a costly endeavor, he decided that in order for people from all backgrounds to be able to participate, they would be providing a funding opportunity for these students or scholars. So he asked for the help of Phil Knight, who is also a Stanford alum. He is also known for his co-founding role for the Nike brand, and he was the very generous donor that now allows us to select up to 100 graduate students from the 7 Stanford schools and fund up to 3 years of their graduate degree. Hence why we're called Knight-Hennessy Scholars as a result of our 2 founders. Now, as you can see from our vision and mission statement, we are truly rooted in the idea that creating a multicultural and a multidisciplinary community of students to really help develop them and shape them for leadership roles across a variety of areas. So whether you want to stay in academia or maybe go into a government role, work in an industry, or perhaps a nonprofit, we want to make sure that you feel empowered to be able to bring back to the communities that you hope to serve. Now, leadership is, of course, the core component of our fellowship. And so we are pretty intentional in how we define leadership and how we practice it in our community. We have identified 9 traits and 6 behaviors that we feel are really crucial to becoming a global leader. We hope that by the end of your time with Knight-Hennessy, you will have reached or accomplished these 3 goals, which is to grow your multicultural perspective. We hope that you will have deepened your commitment to contribute to the greater good and that you feel prepared to drive meaningful results at scale. Now, one of the things to highlight about Knight-Hennessy is that we are not a degree granting program at Stanford. Therefore, we cannot admit you to the university. You must gain admission to your respective degree program in order to be selected for Knight-Hennessy Scholars. We believe that you will gain your expertise from your particular diploma or degree program, and we will serve as a complement to that academic experience by providing you with an environment of other peers that you can grow and learn alongside. Now, again, you would be joining not only our community, but also the greater Stanford community. So our campus is located just 40 minutes south of the city of San Francisco. That is without traffic. There's usually traffic. I mean, you guys know all about traffic. We're about probably closer to an hour and 15. And so our campus is truly at the heart of Silicon Valley, which has grown to become one of the leading innovation hubs in the world. And so this allows our students to be really embedded within a culture that is comfortable with taking risks, as well as pushing boundaries on innovative ideas and being creative in addressing challenges. At Stanford, we have about 9,000 graduate students, and they are pursuing across 150 different degree programs. So when you join our community, you of course will also have the opportunity to learn from and work alongside the 9,000 other graduate students that are currently enrolled. Now, I do want to take time to talk a little bit further about the leadership development program as it is core to what we do. One of the things to note is that we understand that you are first and foremost a Stanford student, so you will have plenty of other responsibilities, academic courses that you're going to have to take. And so we understand that your time commitment with us will vary and will depend, right? That said, there are some core required programs that every scholar in our community must complete in order to be a Knight-Hennessy scholar. And so it's a very light time commitment, I think so, where we require you to attend a 1 hour a week session, which we call storytelling, during your first year with us. Then we also require you to attend an evening town hall that happens every quarter in the academic year. At Stanford, we are on a quarter basis for our academic year where we have 3 quarters: the fall, winter, and spring. And so you would be required to attend a town hall at the beginning of each of those quarters. The last commitment comes in the form of a weekend retreat. So we will have you attend a weekend retreat each quarter. The first year, you are required to attend the fall retreat. And then for the winter and spring quarters, you can attend those at any time, depending on your degree program and availability. Now let's look at what those programs look like in implementation. So for storytelling, again, that's the 1 hour a week workshop where you will come together with your cohort and you will be taught through some communication skills and tools to help you become a more captivating and inspirational communicator. We think that communication is truly crucial for any good leader. And so we have 2 of our improv faculty work with you to practice those skills. And you also get to learn from other scholars. So you get to hear their stories and you get to share your own as well. And so that makes for a really great community bonding time. The other retreat or the other commitment I had talked about was the quarterly retreats. Again, this is a weekend where we will take you away from campus to very beautiful parts of California. You get to spend some time learning from both John Hennessy and Tina Seelig, who is our executive director. And then you also get to have a little bit of fun. So we'll do like nature hikes, we have kayaking available, canoeing, you can do we do karaoke nights in one of those days. And so again, you really get a chance to not only build a skill set but also get to have a little bit of fun in getting to know your fellow peers. The second component of our program is our guest speaker series. So we do have a lot of distinguished guests that we are able to invite to share their own experiences within a field or an area. One of the ways we do that is through the McMurtry Leadership Lecture Series. This happens again once a quarter, where we invite a leader or an expert in a different field to share their experiences with our community. In the past, we have welcomed people like philanthropist Melinda Gates. We've had astronaut Ellen Ochoa. We have also had the former president of Chile, Michelle Bachelet, and the former US Vice President Al Gore. So again, this is a really great opportunity to get to learn from people that come from a variety of different backgrounds and leadership roles. And then the other way that we bring in guest speakers is through what we call curiosity corners. This happens more frequently, so once a week over the lunch hour, where you get to come have lunch and a discussion with a Stanford faculty member or another greater community member. So here you see Tara Vanderveer. She is the former head coach for the women's basketball team. And so she talked about her experiences of being a female in a male-dominated career space and also what leadership looked like for her being on and off the court. So again, you get to hear some really valuable insights from people that probably share different interests or academic and career paths than you. And the last thing that really wraps our program together are the experiences that we hope to equip you with to grow within your own impact And so one of the ways that our scholars really implement action is through our keystone projects. This is a way for you to say, if you want to address a problem or you have an idea that you want to launch, you can pitch your project to the rest of our community, and then other scholars can join your team. During the year, you then work on these teams to develop that project. We provide you with connections, mentoring, coaching, and then at the end of the year, we all come together and you kind of present on what you've been able to accomplish, where you hope to take your project, and what were some lessons learned. So this is a way for our scholars to actually know the impact that they can have in their communities. And some of them have, created their own nonprofits from Keystone projects. Some of them have founded scholarships. And so it's a really great way to, again, know that you have the ability to create change in the world. And the last experience that our scholars really tend to enjoy is our global travel study program. So I talked about wanting to grow your multicultural perspective. One way we feel that you can do this is by seeing a different part of the world. And so each one of our scholars has the opportunity to attend a global travel experience that's about a week long. You go with 15 to 20 other scholars, and then it's usually led by a Stanford faculty member. So our scholars have been able to visit places like South Africa, Norway, India, Turkey, Chile, and we have some upcoming ones to places like Japan, New Zealand, and Palau. So again, this allows you to have an experience that's immersive in a different culture, but then also to see how we're all kind of connected, regardless of where we might be in different parts of the world. Now, of course, the programming is very vital to our mission, but we find that community also plays a really important role in how we're able to build relationships across our scholars. We want to ensure that whenever you leave Stanford, Knight-Hennessy, that you're still able to call back on the network that you've created as part of our community. And so we have a pretty heavy emphasis on having community events that bring us together. So, for example, we do what we call Friendsgiving in November, where we come together and share a big meal at the house. We also have things like Artist Talk, where we'll invite an artist to do a talk about their work and how they get inspiration. We have things like Monday night board game nights. So, again, more of a social way for our scholars to interact. We also feed you really well in this fellowship. You'll find that a lot of our programs are around meal times. And so, one of the other ways we do provide some sort of community is we have lunch at the house Monday through Thursday during the academic year. And so you can come and have a meal, and really the purpose of it is that you share a meal with someone in the community that you haven't met before. Now, our scholars also get to have input into what they want to see in our community. They can plan and execute their own programs through our scholar driven events or through collaborations. So, scholar driven events are solely planned by the scholar, where collaborative events might need a little bit of help from our team. So, say you want to bring a NASA astronaut to give a talk on our campus, we will work with you to ensure that we can make that happen. Now, we have, of course, this place of community because we are such a diverse group of people. So, again, we are a multicultural scholar community. As you can see, we welcomed our very first class in 2018 with only 51 students. We have now grown to 513 across 7 cohorts total. We will be welcoming our 8th cohort this September. And our scholars do come from all across the globe. We have 75 different countries of citizenship represented in our community and 174 different colleges and universities that our scholars have attended. PUC is one of them. So we actually have 2 scholars that have been awarded the fellowship. And so you are part of that 62. Whoop, whoop. Not only are we multicultural, we are also multidisciplinary. So we do have one scholar in at least each of the 7 Stanford graduate schools. Now, one thing to note is that this is not representative of who we tend to select, right? This is rather representative of who ends up applying. So I had asked earlier, right? Anybody in sustainability? I think maybe one person raised their hand. Education, we had two. So you can see that those do tend to be smaller percentages in our community, but we are, of course, wanting to see those grow. The other thing to note is the different type of degree programs our scholars pursue. So about 47% are pursuing a professional degree like an MBA, a medical degree, or a JD, which is our Juris Doctor or law degree. 41% of them are doctoral students pursuing a Doctor of Philosophy in different areas. And then 37% are master's students. So, again, for those engineers that were in the room, you will find that that does equal more than 100%. And that is because some of our scholars are dual or joint degree scholars. And so they are pursuing multiple degrees during their time with us. Now, not only are we, statistics, but there is a human component to our community. And so, usually like to show some pictures of who we are on campus. So, I had mentioned the house a couple of times. We do have a physical space on Stanford's campus. We call this Denning House. So, this is a convening space for our community. Now, even though house is in the name, it is not a residence. So, our scholars do not live with us, but rather it is a space that they can have access to if they want to come together. We also do a lot of our programs here. So, for example, in the dining room, that is where we have our lunches, that's where we host our town hall meetings. And then the living room area is pretty much just like a hangout space where you can come and have coffee, get some work done, and just work with other scholars in the community. Now, the last piece of what we do outside of leadership and community is, of course, the money, the funding piece. So, as I had mentioned in the beginning, we will fund up to 3 years of your graduate degree. What does that funding consist of? One, we will provide or cover your program's tuition and associated fees. We also provide a living stipend as part of your time with the fellowship. In addition to those scholars who are joining us in the first year, we will also allocate a relocation and technology stipend to help with some of the costs of getting to Stanford's campus for the very first time. And then for those who are already in our community, we do provide an annual economy class ticket to and from Stanford. That way you get to go home during the breaks or at the beginning of the year or at the conclusion. And then for those that are in their second and third year, we do have academic enrichment funds. So if there is an activity that you want to participate in, like you want to attend a conference or present at a symposium, you are able to apply for an enrichment fund to help cover some of those costs. Now, I know many of you raised your hands and said master's program, so I want to provide a couple of examples of what this funding looks like. So, if you're pursuing a 1 year or a 2 year master's degree, the Knight-Hennessy funds that 1 year or 2 years of your program. If you are pursuing a longer term degree, so say something like a PhD, those are typically 5 years at Stanford. The thing to note about Stanford is that if you are admitted to a PhD program, that department will fund your degree for the 5 years. That said, if you are selected for Knight-Hennessy, we fund the first 3 years, and then the department funding takes over for the last two. So it's a replacement of, not in addition to. Questions about funding before we actually dive into the application? Yes. Como tú prefieras. No, we are not a need-based program. And so we do not take consideration of the need of the student. I will talk about the criteria in the next few slides. Yes, in the back. Ah, sí. So, el programa es igual, sería de 5 años. Todos los programas PhDs en Stanford son financiados, they're financed by the department. In that instance, this music major, we are funding their first 3 years, and then the department funds the last two. Mhm. It works like the every other program. Mhm. No, pero sí es parte de el relocation stipend. Yes. We have specific eligibility requirements for programs. So on our website, you can look up, there are, I think, 5 or 6 degrees that are not eligible for Knight-Hennessy. Yeah, I believe that is not eligible for this. Yeah. hmm Okay, so we are going to jump into the application because it seems that that is where the questions are heading. So, again, there are some core eligibility requirements that you must meet in order to be eligible for selection. First and foremost, we don't have any residential requirements, so we are open to residents of all countries. We do, however, have two minimum requirements. One, again, you must apply and be admitted to a Stanford degree program. We cannot select someone who does not gain admission. No, you do not have to be admitted before you apply to Knight-Hennessy. So the process, when I talk about the timeline, you are applying at the same time. You're applying to Knight-Hennessy and you're applying to Stanford simultaneously. The second requirement is the time or the year that you completed your bachelor's degree. We have a 7-year eligibility window from the time that you complete your first bachelor's to the time that you enroll at Stanford. So if you're applying this year to enroll in 2026, you could not have completed your bachelor's any earlier than 2019. So to determine if you are eligible, you would take the year that you plan on enrolling, so 2027, 2028, and then subtract 7. And that is your eligibility window. Does that make sense? Because I know that sometimes can be confusing. Yes. No, solo el bachillerato. Aunque tengas maestría, we go by the bachelor's year. Sí. So no tenemos requisito de edad. There's not an age minimum or maximum, but it depends on the year that you earned your bachelor's degree. Máximo. Ujú. Ah, okay. Media Studies, no estoy 100%. Deberían de checar en la página de la Escuela de Humanidades y Ciencias. Ahí es donde está el programa el departamento de comunicación. Pero todo lo que tiene que ver con tu programa académico, eso tiene que ser parte del departamento de Stanford. Entonces, si tienes preguntas sobre el programa específico que vas a aplicar, eso tienes que ir a la página del departamento. No todos. Hay ciertos programas que son nada más en línea o que son en menos de un año que no son elegibles para la beca. Ujú.
¿Cómo sería para este, por ejemplo, para agosto de este año? O sea, no se sabe si va a ser para el
Ujú.
sería.
See, so at this time, we are still recruiting and admitting students from all across the globe, knowing that there might be issues with their visas. And so we are working with those students that if they are not able to get to us in that cycle that they've been selected, we are able to defer their admission. Now, that is not a guaranteed, but that is something that we are looking to do if they're not able to get their visa within the cycle that they've applied. Ok, sí voy a seguir con la presentación, nada más porque we'll have time at the end for more questions, but I want to make sure we get through the actual timeline of the application. So again, if you do meet those two eligibility requirements, then you are able to apply to Knight-Hennessy. There are 3 different criteria that we actually look at for the application. So you'll find that there is not a minimum GPA, there's not a minimum academic record or test score that would guarantee you or get you admission to Knight-Hennessy. We are looking for very specific things, mostly in the form of evidence that demonstrates independence of thought, purposeful leadership, and civic mindset. You'll find that these 3 categories really define the mission and vision of the leaders that we're trying to create. So, for example, for independence of thought, we are looking for evidence in your application that shows that you are a visionary thinker, somebody who is curious and open minded, someone who's analytical and is able to engage or has engaged with different perspectives. We want to see evidence of how you've been able to address or solve problems in creative and innovative ways. For purposeful leadership, we are looking for examples that show that you are an ethical and decisive leader, someone who is resilient, who doesn't give up very easily, but also someone who has made an impact in a specific area or field. We want to see how you have been able to inspire other people around you to also work towards a common goal. And then for civic mindset, we are looking for collaborative community members, those who show that they are humble, empathetic, trustworthy. You show that you act in service of others and that you are consistently and deeply committed to contributing to the greater good. Now, these are all, again, very broad general categories. We do this intentionally because there are various different ways that you can demonstrate these traits in your application. There is not a ideal format of what a ideal candidate looks like. Everyone is going to look different. It really comes down to your experiences and how you feel you've demonstrated these 3 criteria. So there is various ways that you can show this in the application. Now, one of the things people think is that they have to be strong in all 3. Obviously, yes, that will make you the most competitive in the pool. However, it is very rare that we see a candidate that is strong in all 3 areas. Much more common is where we see candidates where they have a clear strength in maybe one or the 2 and are probably not as strong in the other 2 or 1. So again, just because you may not see yourself as a ton through purposeful leadership, or maybe you don't feel like you have a lot of civic mindset, that doesn't mean that you're not competitive, but rather that how you frame your application will matter, where you want to make sure you are highlighting the strengths that you see in your experiences. There's a variety of ways that you can show or provide evidence for the 3 criteria. These are going to be our application requirements. Now, again, it's really important to note here that when you apply to Knight-Hennessy, you are doing 2 applications, one for Knight-Hennessy and one to Stanford's graduate degree program. Their degree program requirements, Their application is going to be separate and different than ours. You will want to confirm with that degree program what those requirements are, as well as the deadlines for those programs. We do not look at those materials. We do not have a say in that decision. We will only review the materials you submit to Knight-Hennessy. That does include an online application that opens in June. We have an October 8 deadline this year. We will also require you to submit a one-page resume, as well as any college transcripts for any post-secondary schools you've attended for a period of 12 months or longer. And then you are required to submit test scores if your degree program has that requirement. So if they require you to submit a GMAT, a GRE score, an LSAT score, an MCAT score, you must submit that to Knight-Hennessy as well. This also does include English proficiency. If your department requires you to submit a test score for proof of English proficiency, you must also submit that to Knight-Hennessy. In addition to these documents, the last piece will be letters of recommendation. We ask that you submit 2 letters of recommenders. They can be academic, they can be professional, they can be someone you know in the community. We do not limit or specify who you must choose. It is up to you to choose someone that you feel can write about your experiences through the lens of the 3 criteria. Now, once you submit both of those applications, hopefully by the deadline that is required, then we move you through the next stages of the application. So again, when you apply, you will not have a decision from Stanford yet, but we do work with every department on campus to ensure that whoever we're advancing forward does remain in consideration for their degree program. So your degree program will independently be reviewing your application and sending notifications, while we will then move you through our process. What our process consists of is that in January, we will invite 500 candidates from that pool of applicants to submit a video statement. It is a 2-minute video that you create in the form of a how-to tutorial. We ask you to share something that you want to teach to our community. Can be about anything as long as it's 2 minutes. There is no weight or importance in terms of video production. Doesn't have to be a grand video. It could be on your phone, it could be done on your laptop. Really, we're just wanting to know a little bit more about the candidates. After the 500 candidates video submissions, we will invite or select 180 finalists from that pool. These finalists will be asked to conduct an online individual interview that is 25 minutes long. And then you will also participate in what we call immersion weekend. This typically happens during a weekend in the last week of February or the first week of March, where we invite the 180 finalists to Stanford's campus. And then we will show you a bit of a preview of what our community is like. So you get to do a storytelling session, you get to sit in on a curiosity corner, you get to meet the other finalists. And there is one evaluative portion to that weekend, which is a group interview. And so after you leave immersion weekend, we then go into selection committee. We will select up to 100 from those 180 finalists, and we will notify them in mid-March. Now, the thing to note here is that Stanford will be doing their own review process and selecting or admitting to your program. We cannot select you if you are not admitted to your Stanford degree program. However, it is possible that you are not selected for Knight-Hennessy, yet you're still admitted to Stanford. So know that that does happen every year. There are years that, of course, we cannot select all applicants, and so they do end up eventually getting admitted to Stanford and enrolling in that following year. Now, before we do open up to questions, I want to leave you with just 2 sort of journeys of our scholars that are here from PUC. This is Cesar. He is a 2022 cohort scholar who studied civil engineering here. And so he has been an amazing part and contributor to our community. He enjoys a lot of the social kind of mixers that we put on, but also is really a pillar in ensuring that we are accessible to other people. So he actually was able to do a little bit of outreach for me when I was planning my visit and connect with people so that they would join the session here. And then we are just about to welcome Josefina this coming fall. She is doing a JSM, which is a post-law degree at Stanford. And so she will be joining us in September. We're really excited to now be up to 4 Peruvians in our community. And so again, this is something that we hope that we can continue to grow as part of our multicultural community. With that, I do now want to give a couple of minutes for any questions that you all may have or anything that I did not cover in the presentation. Thank you. Y paso el micrófono if you have a question, or can everybody hear? Sí? Okay. Depende. Todos los estudiantes van a ser diferentes. Tenemos aplicaciones que son estudiantes que están aplicando en su último año de su programa y van a ingresar en lo siguiente otoño y han sido admitidos. Esto es como 30% de nuestra comunidad. El resto, 60%, tiene entre 1 a 3 años de experiencia profesional antes de que ingresan a Stanford. Entonces, realmente depende en el candidato. Si tú sientes que tienes la criteria basado en los 3, 4, 5 años que has tenido en tu bachillerato, entonces puedes aplicar. Unos estudiantes sienten que a lo mejor necesitan mucho más para poder ser competitivos y se esperan a aplicar. Depende del programa también. Entonces, para Stanford, una maestría a lo mejor no está buscando tanto programa o tanta so much professional experience, pero como un programa como un MBA, típicamente esos candidatos van a tener mucho más experiencia. Entonces también depende mucho del programa que estás aplicando para Stanford. Sí. Ujú. No, bueno, si quieres ser considerada para los ambos, para Knight-Hennessy, entonces tienes que poner los dos. Nada más tienes que hacer una aplicación para Knight-Hennessy, donde pones los dos, pero para Stanford, entonces tuvieras que hacer las 2 aplicaciones separadas. Ujú. Correcto. Ujú, sí, buena pregunta. Sí, sí es posible, pero no sería, Knight-Hennessy no proporcionaría el financiamiento para ese PhD. Entonces, tuvieras que aplicar a ambos programas y ser al mismo tiempo. Entonces, por ejemplo, tenemos ahorita un MBA que es de 2 años y también aplicó a una maestría de educación de 1 año. Entonces, los dos tuvo que aplicar, tuvo que poner esos aplicación y nosotros vamos a financiar esos 3 años de su programa. Correcto, sí. Y creo que en Stanford no puedes aplicar a los ambos en el mismo departamento. O sea, tienes que aplicar a la maestría o al doctorado. Sí. Atrás con los lentes. La primera, correcto, sí. Para tu primera pregunta, hay muchos modos de puedes demostrar la criteria. O sea, en la aplicación tenemos secciones donde tú vas a escribir sobre tu experiencia profesional, académica, actividades extracurricular, y ahí nosotros te preguntamos, ok, esta actividad, ¿cuál es el impacto que has tenido? ¿Cuál ha sido tu liderazgo en este programa, esta comunidad, etcétera? Entonces nosotros ahí te damos el espacio para tú poder explicar cómo tú cabes en nuestra criteria. Lo otro sería las letras o las cartas de recomendación. Ese yo creo que va a ser uno de los más importantes para darnos evidencia que es de alguien más. O sea, que alguien más está diciendo, sí, esta persona puedo confirmar, estas han sido sus experiencias, aquí es como ellos han demostrado su curiosidad, su leadership, etcétera. Entonces, eso hace tu aplicación a little bit more depth versus breadth, right? So like you can tell us a lot of different things of what you've done, but we need to corroborate that information from external people. Sí, atrás en el amarillo. No, es diferente. So, tú tienes que fijarte con el departamento para saber cuál es su plan de financiamiento, porque todos van a ser diferentes. El living stipend, que típicamente sí cubre el alojamiento. Ujú. Bueno, eso dependería en el estudiante. O sea, nosotros te damos el living stipend y tú eres la que te das cuenta de que, ok, voy a vivir en esta y me va a sobrar eso, o etcétera. Y tú ahí puedes usar ese dinero como tú necesites para tu tiempo. Estudiar. Bueno, la visa que podemos otorgar es la G1 y la F1. Ujú. O J1, perdón. J1 y F1. Sí, sí. Más preguntas. Sí, aquí. Ujú. Absolutely. Ujú. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for asking that. Especially for the MBAs, I understand you're probably more outcome oriented. So we see those profiles be maybe stronger in purposeful leadership, independence of thought, civic mindset. We might see a couple, right? But again, that doesn't mean that you're not competitive for selection. That's why it's really important for you to really reflect on your experiences and know where your strengths are in the three criteria. Civic mindset, most of the time people think like community service or volunteer work or working towards a social cause, which yes, that can be demonstrated to that, but it's also around your interactions with people, right? Are you welcoming? Are you a collaborator? Do you engage with different perspectives and are open to that versus like putting people down or shunning people? And so there are various ways that you can embed that, or even in your letters of recommendation, of somebody who is a team player, somebody who goes out of their way to act for others, to um, to bring others up with them. So there is a variety of ways to embed civic mindset. I will say that's probably the easiest of the criteria to fit because of the intention behind your actions. So that is one way that you say, I have worked on this because this is something that I'm deeply passionate about or want to work to fix, and also for what you hope to do in the future. No, no, no. Sí, buena pregunta. Sí, en la aplicación hay una pregunta que te pregunta qué es el plan después de así otorgar esta posgrado, right? What do you want to do with this? Where do you hope to take it? I will say though, we are more, yes, potential is good, but we are more on realized action at that moment. So when you're applying, you want to make sure you have um, realized potential already as well. Right, correct. Yes. Good questions. I am keeping track of time. We do have 3 minutes, and I will stay a little bit after to answer additional questions, but I do want to just comment on some other ways that you can remain in contact with us if you want to learn more information. We have a lot of online events that you can participate in. Then we also have our own podcast. So our scholar community will interview other scholars. They talk about their experiences, what they were doing before they got to Knight-Hennessy, how they hope to, change the world or the world that they imagine they want to create. And so it's usually a good listen because you get a lot of great perspective of what that experience has been. And it's very different, as I had mentioned before. And then, of course, our contact information. So if you do have more questions, you can always reach out to khscholars at stanford.edu. That's the best way to get in contact with us. And our website has all of this information. So that's really a good starting point. It gives you questions to reflect on as you're thinking about the 3 criteria. It gives you tips for recommendations, like what's a good letter of recommendation. So that's really something to share with whoever you select for that. And then we are, of course, on social media. So if you want to follow us on Instagram or LinkedIn, we are at Knight-Hennessy. But other than that, thank you so much. Thank you for hosting me and for your time. And like I said, I'll stay after a bit if you do have one-on-one questions as well. But enjoy your weekend.